We rely for now on the eyes and ears of people who are in the area, among them David Solano, who talked to us earlier.
We were getting on the on-ramp on Cross Bay Bridge, and we looked up, we saw the plane fire coming from the left-hand side. It could have been an explosion, or it could have been that the engine was on fire. We're not exactly sure.
Now, are you convinced it was the left side? Because another eyewitness just told Jason Carroll he believed he saw a fire or some kind of explosion coming from the right side of the aircraft.
No, it was definitely the left side, because we were exactly getting onto the bridge on Cross Bay Bridge, which is maybe not even 5 miles from JFK Airport, and it flew right over us. And then what happened is it started to veer to the left, and then it veered back right, and we could actually see that the plane went on fire on the left-hand side.
David, as we've been reporting all morning, the plane was taking off from JFK. How low was it at the point where you saw it?
Very low. I was actually scared that it was going to veer, towards us and maybe hit us. So we stopped dead in our tracks, and I was actually in the car with my brother, and we were both shaking. We didn't know what to do, and we actually reversed tried to get off the bridge, get off the exit before, right, put it in reverse to get away. Before the plane came towards us, but it was very low. We seen something fly off the plane. It could have been an explosion. It could have been the engine on fire, but it was definitely on fire, and it was in flames when it was heading down.
David Solano, a witness to this morning's crash of the United Airlines 587, he described the plane as being very low. Based on calculations that were done by an independent firm that tracks airline takeoffs and landings and the like, plane took off a few seconds past 9:16, and at the moment contact was lost, it was at about 2,800 feet. And you heard Mr. Goldfarb, the former FAA official, talk about, and I think this came up also in Miles' interview just a short time ago, this is a very critical time in a flight. This is a time when the crew, because of the speed the plane is traveling, it's not that fast, and because of the altitude that it is flying, not that high, it is a very critical, it is obviously in any flight a very dangerous time. Takeoffs and landings are always the most critical moments in the flight, and you can, at least according to the mayor, 4 different areas where pieces of the plane have fallen down. Obviously one of the engines there at a gas station out in Queens. At some point this afternoon we'll put together, we are trying to put together now a map just to give you a sense of where these various pieces have fallen. You see the intense fire that broke out, 4 houses destroyed, dozens, a dozen or more, I think is the way I heard it, have been damaged. Obviously an enormous amount of jet fuel on board that plane. And that fuel causes, as we all know from what happened now almost 9 weeks ago, a tremendous amount of fire, tremendous amount of smoke, and it is a very hot fire. But we only know of 4 houses totally that have been destroyed, many others damaged. We don't have any clear sense. It's no distress call from the plane at this point. How many people on the ground have been hurt? We don't know if anyone on the ground has been killed. It is a holiday. As most of you know, schools are closed in the New York area. That means there are a lot of kids around, and we just don't know this stuff yet. And we are checking hospitals, and we are working the phones with police and fire to try and get a handle on how many people on the ground have been hurt. In the meantime, throughout the morning, we have talked to a number of people who saw this happen. Now, each of them sees it somewhat differently, and that's important to keep in mind. We don't suggest in any of these interviews that any of them are wrong. They simply see and are describing to us what they saw. And depending on where you are and what your state of mind is at the time, it can come out a little differently, and it just helps to keep that in mind as you process these eyewitness accounts. And here is another one from a woman who saw the plane come down.
I was in my kitchen making an egg, and I saw the plane hit the house right behind my house. Actually, it was a huge, loud sound, and it seemed so low that I was like ducking almost. and then it blew up into a huge fireball, and I jumped off the second floor of my house. It was horrible.
You are so lucky. How far did you have to run to get away from the fireball?
Well, we ran right across the street first because we just were in shock, everybody. And then we had to evacuate like 2 streets away. It's unbelievable. It's horrible.
I know, it was so shocking to hear what you heard. Did you, besides the deafening loud sound of the explosion, did you hear anything before that?
I just heard, it sounded like 2 planes, but I guess it was just one, and it was really, really, we thought it was like the Concorde, you know, and it was flying too low or something. And then it just hit, it was like a bomb exploding. I don't know.
And I know that Jason, who you just met, was describing that some witnesses actually saw an explosion on the right side of the aircraft before the plane went down. So they clearly heard 2 separate explosions. Can you sort that out right now? Because I know it's got to be a complete blur to you at this point.
Well, the plane, I think it just hit exactly the house behind me and must have exploded into pieces. And, you know, and they just fell in different areas of the neighborhood.
You said you jumped out of the second floor window of your home?
No, I went over the deck in my front of my house because the back was so hot with
Did you
fire.
get injured?
I don't know. I mean, my back hurts and my rear hurts, but I can't really think about that right now.
Describe to us what's going on in the neighborhood.
It's
Were people
complete and
fleeing?
utter terror here. Everybody is so distraught and upset and just in shock, pretty much. It's just hard to believe. It's just, you know, you never think it's going to hit this close to home, but it obviously it does, you know.
Some kids are out of school today for post-Veterans Day remembrances. Are you seeing many kids out on the street or actually were home who unfortunately have to deal with the trauma of seeing this?
Most of the